All right, as promised, this will be a shorter video than the last two as we complete the series, or at least I'll call it current complete, target complete for the unique parts case feeding platform system and its components. So I said I would actually do some reloading with it, and that's what we'll do tonight. So I thought I would start from scratch in terms of what I would call a cold press. Cold meaning I'll take the covers off and start populating all of the different components. So I will fill the bullet feeder, I'll fill my powder, I'll fill my casing, and I'll fill my priming, and I'll show you how I do each one of those. In fact, since I've got since I've got the camera in front of me right now and I have my powder in hand, I will do that. So for powder, I pop on my I don't remember, I did a video on this a long time ago, can't remember, and then I will either take that off and go through here, and because I'm doing a lot more primer and I'm dumping, and I can just let that go and walk away, but I don't walk away because that's when things happen. But in theory, I could let that fill on its own. So I'm going to help it along, speed it along. I'm only going to load about 50 rounds, so I'll call that good. And for those of you who are wondering what I just put on, that's my powder slash bullet. So if I were to load a bullet and not satisfied with it, I would take my kinetic bullet puller and then just dump it in there, and then I've got my top. So powder's done. I'll do bullets here in a second. Let me reposition the camera. Here's what I use for my bullets, my bullet feeding device. Again, I've done videos on this. This is by SoCal SW, SoCalSW.com, and this is awesome. Not the tubes aren't as thick as I said, the ones included with unique parts, but thicker than the Lite tubes, and because it's a much smaller in the sense that it's top to bottom 14 inches, so not huge, and I've got 6 tubes, so we will fill that. And the way I fill my tubes, I think I did a video on this thing, this homemade contraption that I have magnetized to the side of my press forever and ago. And what I will do is I will set the mag P to a middle detent so that my bullets won't come out. And there's my primers for in a minute. And here's my Molly Coat go-to bullet. And I'll just do one round so I don't bore you with my loading process. And I can't remember how many bullets actually go into one tube for 45 ACP, and then obviously I have the same thing for 9mm on the other. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3. I think that's 23. I want to say each tube holds 20 something. So I will pick a tube, doesn't matter which one because all of them are blocked, and I line that up and I just toss them in like that. And 23 minus 2, 21. So there's 21 bullets in that tube. So I'll do this 2 more times for my 50 bullets, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my 40 some odd bullets in 2 tubes. Because I'm going to do a short session, normally I would fill them all up. So I would have, what is that, 6 times 21, 120-ish or so. And I don't just drop it in here and then rotate, because what will happen is all of the bullets a couple of them will drop just because of the weight. And this is why I like my dual bin adapter mounted to the back of the press, because I take my bins, I mount them up, and now with everything mounted, I'll take a few pieces of brass, throw it in there, and I'll take a few bullets and throw it in that bin, because what I will normally do is pre-feed 8 of these. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is full almost to the brim. And then I would, and I've got a little marker that I put in terms of where the hole is, so that I'm not playing a guessing game. So I load that up, rotate it over, and now that's loaded, locked and loaded. So I'm all set for bullets and powder. And I think one of the things I'm gonna purchase from Unique Parts is their powder label, so that I can have something on my powder measure, which you probably can't see because the camera's too low. The little mount, so you can put a card in there in terms of what recipe you're working on or what powder's in there. So I will be doing that. Then I also make sure that my powder lockout die, I've got a couple of reference points on here so that I can make sure it doesn't drift, and it's set correctly. And what I would then do is throw a piece of brass in here that is not unprimed, so that I can, and I don't change my measurement on here, so I would do 3 or so drops to completely fill up a 45 casing. Then I would drop it back in the powder, so that I have my powder. And for those who wonder what the lockout die does, notice I just double charged that. My lockout die would then prevent, haven't even started drinking tea, prevent the press from moving forward. Again, I always check that. And then if I don't have a charge, now I've missed the charge, I should also have my lockout. And with a correct charge, if I don't destroy my spring, with a correct single charge, I should be in business with my lockout die. So I absolutely adore and value that lockout die, because it saved me on more than one occasion in terms of, you know, I thought I was paying attention, but maybe not. So now I've got the cotter pin in the multi-tube case feeder. So I'm going to drop these 40, actually there's probably more than 40 cases in here. I'm going to drop these in the collator, do a little shaking. And I've got probably 5 or so more that are almost there. And one errant. Where are you at? Where's a hole? There's always one that doesn't want to cooperate. All right, so that's about half full. So I would say that for 45 ACP, the multi-tube feeder probably holds 100 rounds. So between the multi-tube case feeder and my bullet feeder, it's a while before I'm filling up anything. In fact, I'll be filling up primers quicker than anything. In fact, now that I've mentioned that, we'll go to the priming solution. So there's a couple things I do with priming, which I will demonstrate here momentarily. You've seen what I've done with this primer tube in terms of cutting the end off and chamfering it in a different video as part of my Primal demonstration. And the biggest challenge I had with Primol, so I will move the camera, because anytime I've demonstrated the Primol on the bench, there's never enough space for me to tilt. In fact, I'll move the camera even more. Never enough space for me when I have the tube inserted. So I've got this set on the large, magnets on the small, blocking the small, so we're good to go on large. I will insert this tube. It's all the way in there, but because of the length of the tube, trying to demonstrate this at the right angle on the bench always presented a problem, because this would be hitting, based on where my camera is, the bottom of the bench. So now that we don't have the bench problem, but I'm going to take this out because I was too busy talking instead of throwing primers in. So I will throw primers into the solution, move them around a little bit so that they're in the correct orientation. All right, so now I've got my primers all in here. I'll throw the top on, move them all over, and then throw this tube back in. So now I've got plenty of room, and the way I load this Primol is I create a little bit of a mountain on the right side, and then I just tilt forward so that I'm not jamming a whole bunch. It's kind of like single line, everybody get in there. I'm in no rush, and I'm not worried about the speed as much as I am the accuracy. So that is done. And what I've done for years is, I think this actually came with the Hornady press, which is a primer. I don't know what the right term is, but let me move the camera back up again so that when I throw it into, and I'm going to do this behind the camera so I'm a little bit quirky, so that when I throw this on top of my primer tube and I pull the cotter pin, the weight of that rod, this plastic Delrin rod, sends the primers, or at least help assist the primers in floating down the rod, or floating down the tube, so that I'm good to go. And I found that works quite well, I might say. And if you notice, I painted a little bit of red, because previously that was my indicator of when my 100, once my red gets down to here, which you probably can't see the red, there's the red. When the red gets down to this level, that means I'm just about out of primers, because I don't run the primer alarm anymore. That just got old. I checked to make sure things are tight. So technically, I'm good to go minus the brass. So I will prime my primers, make sure I've got my primer good to go in here. Let's see if you can see that. No, you can't. Let me go down a little bit. All right, so primer is now in there. Plate is tight. Everything is good to go. Bullets ready. The only thing left is my casings. So I will reset to 0 this counter. So I'll use the counter as an electronic method of keeping track of my primer. So I know I have 50 primers, so since I'm not running 100, this should go a whole lot faster, and I'm not going to bore you with running all 50. So what I'll do is I'll show you a couple in action from this angle, and then I'll move the camera around to the other side so that you can see the solution in action a little bit better. All right, so we are all primed, ready to go, and we're going to start dropping cases. And I'm not in a hurry when I load. I'm more interested in accuracy, and I will every once in a while discover that I have a small pistol primer, which drives me crazy because I do look for those. But because I'm old and I miss things at times, some of them skate by, and I'm guessing I had picked up some errant brass from a previous range visit that was less than wonderful. So I toss my small pistol primers. I do not keep them. I'm not a fan of small pistol on 45 ACP. And the shell plate can be finicky at times. All right, so that is the first set of rounds, and I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do this in terms of twisting, because I don't want to break anything. All right, I'm still getting used to it, obviously. So I need to grab this upper rotational, not the bottom, because obviously the bottom is tied into the caliber. And someone had asked me, how do you change calibers on this? And I thought I showed it in the previous video, I think the video number 1, but I will show it here. So I'm loading 45 ACP at the moment, and unique parts included a 9mm adapter, so that obviously when you look at the size of the hole, so changing out a caliber is as simple as popping, and I'll show you on the other side of the press, the adapter out and running with the smaller caliber. All right, so that is this view of the press, and I will move the camera around to show you the other side of the press. One moment, please. In 1 minute. Before I forget, here's what I mean by my dual bin. I love having the ability to have extra brass and lead at a hand's reach. Here's the other side of the press. I'll move this out of the way a little bit so that you can see the reloading action. We're at roughly 18. I didn't even realize we're probably maybe a couple shorter than that, but didn't realize that that many had gone through. Okay, Murphy's Law, trying to do something on video and not paying enough attention results in what I would call an issue. And it looks like we're getting about halfway there. There's the 25 mark. And I will show you what I do for the bullet changeover. So now, if you notice this, and you probably can't see it too clear, so let me raise the camera a little bit. So right now, this tube that was feeding my bullets is empty, so I'm just going to rotate that, and you'll hear it drop. And I try not to let it get too empty, because then when it drops, it has a tendency, the weight of the bullets, to... And this is where we will figure out how we're going to turn this thing. Let me do counterclockwise. There we go. And we are set. And I'm sure I will have a blue Kool-Aider. I think I got another small pistol primer. Yep, another small pistol primer. God bless it. That's what happens when folks look to save money at the range and they're buying cheaper bullets, or at least small pistol primers instead of large pistol primers. And I've had people ask me before how much I bell. I would have to take a measurement to see, but this is another reason why I try not to go wicked fast, because I'd like the bullets to stay up as much as possible. vertical-ish, and there's always something that wants to either jam or, and I'm going to go counterclockwise, so there we go, getting the hang of it now. And I said I was not going to bore you guys with all 50 loads, but 50 goes pretty quick, and another freaking, so I will, for the reason why to have extra brass, because wow, we must have really fucking, no, that's large. I was going to say, we must have really got next to somebody, and the bullet just dropped. And with my diabetic fingers, so this is about the speed that I reload when I'm not frustrated with large pistol primers. And it looks like my rod is almost at the bottom. It's at red, so I take that out so that I don't get a primer jam. And then what I will do, because I knew I was pretty low, I will start skipping a bullet just to see if I have a primer. And I don't believe I have any more primers, so we are good. And we'll finish this run up. And that, according to my bullet primer counter, is 62. So I raised and lowered the press enough that this rotated 62 times. But there's my 50 bullets that I can then pour into my pouch, so that I've got bullets for my next reloading, or for my next shooting session. So I haven't figured out what I like more, reloading or shooting, but they both balance. And that was, I think, everything I wanted to show. So everything fit, everything had clearance, no issues. Again, I run extra things with like the Mag-P bullet, and I've got room that rotates around, so that clears my powder. The unique parts fully installed clears all my functionality. I don't have anything hitting, and if you've seen any of my Dylan videos, you'll know my rant about powder, the Dylan powder charge, and how challenging that is, at least the base. And then I'll dust everything off with air, compressed air, and then I'll clean up everything. I'll put there's nothing to put away primers wise, so and I've used all my brass, so now it's just putting the powder back in, and that's pretty boring. So we're going to call this a wrap. Take care, folks.